Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining our first training webinar. I'm Fia, for those who doesn't know me from before. I'm a customer success director here at Onalytica. I've been at Onalytica for almost a year now. Previously, I've been working in customer success in different type of roles throughout PR and social media. And yeah, so we have my brilliant colleague manning the chat. So for any questions throughout the session, please just put them in the chat. Whatever we can't answer today directly, we're going to obviously follow up. And I want to also let you all know that this is being recorded. So if you would like to have the recording after the session is done, please feel free to request that and we can send it over to you once it's processed. And today, as you saw in the invitation, we're going to cover the Discover module. So we're just going to go through how to use this part of the platform, how we can look through profiles, and how we can save people into our own curated lists. So let's see, we have a few people. Yeah, we have a few people joining, which is really nice. So I think I will get started without any further ado. So yeah, as you know, Onalytica is, well, we've been around for over a decade, and over this time we've curated a database of over 1 million influential voices. These can be creators, influencers, execs, subject matter experts, and we have them in our database. And it's with the Discover module that we're looking at now that you can search this database. And there are different things that we can do to get our results. Today, we are, first of all, we need to choose the channel that we want to look into. So we have Twitter or YouTube. YouTube is something that we have very recently launched. And then we need to choose topics. So why we need to choose topics is in order to find people within talking about these thought leadership topics that we or maybe our clients are interested in if you work for an agency. We have helped you along the way with this. So we have a topic library with over 200 different topics that we've already put here in our list. You can either scroll through and you see the kind of headline if you'd like, or you can start by just typing. So today we're just going to do cloud as an example. We can also use the bio here. So this would look for keywords within someone's Twitter bio. We can also choose to, if we don't want to use a full-on topic, we just want to look for a few keywords, we can add them here and look at matching all of these keywords, any of them, or if we want to make sure that we exclude those keywords altogether. Now, as you saw, I chose a topic here, but we can't really see, I mean, it says cloud computing, that's great, but what does that actually mean? What are the keywords that are building this topic? So if we want to know that, we can, before we go to the actual search, we can click advanced search down here. This will then open up so that we see all the keywords in this Boolean query that makes that topic. Now here, we can actually make changes to this. So you can remove, you can add keywords in there. And if you feel unsure of how to create a Boolean, because that's not everyone is used to it, not everyone is comfortable with it. Maybe you have done it at some point in the past, but you can't really remember the ins and outs of it. There's a little help here, how to search. This opens up a cheat sheet, I would say, where you can see the operators, which is and, or, and not, and then you can do the points and the star if it's not allowed. And here it just shows you the and, so it has to mention all the connected terms in the same post. Or is, of course, either or, and not is excluding, and so on. So that can help you. And what I want to say as well, if you're in here in advanced search, either to create your own Boolean query for your search, or if you want to make amendments to this one, it doesn't save. So it will only be for this specific search that you're doing at this very moment. So you can change anything in here. It will not break the Boolean in the topic library, but also just make a note of that it doesn't save it for the future. This is something, however, that we are looking into. By we, I don't mean myself personally, but our product team are looking into how we can make that so that we can save our searches for the future. So once we're happy with that, if we're going through this part of it, me personally, I then go back to the topic search just to have this view again. It's completely up to you if you want to stay in the advanced search. The next step, I would say, is to look at the filters, right? So here we can start to kind of narrow down our search, make it more specific. So by default, it's hidden. If we click filters, it opens the filters up. And by default, we have these 4 filters added. These are not set in stone. You can remove each and every one of them if you want to. You can change these however you want. You just click away. So location, for example, by default is set to any. But if you're only interested in maybe finding people within the UK or finding people within the United States or even maybe another country, then you can either scroll through here and find it, or you can start typing in the free text box and it starts appearing. So if I, for example, want to find someone in Sweden, I can just start typing and it appears. So yeah, and then what we can also choose is audience size. Again, is set to any. We can do, if we want to do UK, we can do United States as well. For audience size, you can choose just leave it at any, or if you want to remove that, you can choose to go on the very micro side of the influencers. So this is looking at their follower numbers, or if you want the larger ones who have, already have a big and established platform, or again, you can just leave it at any, and then you can do your own vetting later. So if we start with the search on this, and then what it does, we see the little bar here telling us of the progress. So what is now happening is it's looking through our database and matching the different criteria that we've put, right? So it needs to be on Twitter. It needs to be someone who's mentioned cloud computing and any of the keywords in that topic that we chose. It also needs to be someone who has set themselves as being either in the UK or the United States currently, because those were the location filters I added on. And it's also matching anyone who's mentioned this topic over the last 180 days. Now, why we have set that is just to keep it as fresh as possible. And also it's, of course, lots of data that we're sifting through, right? So that it can get quite heavy, and it would be taking a lot longer if we would have looking through someone mentioning this topic, through all time. So what we're now seeing is we're seeing that we are getting a full-on result of 5,162 people in total. We're showing the first 100 here on this page, and then of course you can go page by page if you want. But there's quite a lot of things that we see on this first search result here. So I'm going to try my best to explain what it is that we have here. And this will help you kind of vet the results that you get to see, oh, okay, do I need to, 1, either put more filters on? 2, is this person an actual good fit for purpose? So am I looking for someone to actually reach out to for collaboration directly? Am I looking to create a larger kind of community, as we call it, a larger community pool, kind of to check, share a voice on certain topics, or, a benchmark against another list of people, another group of people, or what it can be. We're going to go through a few filter changes later on as well and try some few other things. So we have our search result here. So what we see at the top are a few numbers. Now, what are these? Audience size, I would say, is very clear to see. The audience size is whatever channels we have associated with this person. For Thomas here, for example, is Twitter and LinkedIn. So across those, he has 29,129 followers or connections. So it's a total of the channels we have associated with them. Relevance is how many times has this person posted in the last 180 days on this topic, which is cloud computing. And then topical authority. So what is that? So topical authority is essentially the engagement and the noise that this person is making when posting on this specific topic. And we're ranking them on topical authority here. So the top one will have 100, and then the ones following we see is in relation to this top person. It doesn't mean that the ones that have the lowest score is a lower fit. It's just in terms of this person here is creating a lot of noise and getting a lot of engagement when he posts on the topic. And if you ever feel that, oh, what was it that they said about these numbers, you can always click this little question mark here, and it does pull up the little explanation for you. Now, apart from that, we can look at a few more things here. So we have a green little box saying show content. What this is, when I click that, it's opening up and showing us the 3 most recent tweets on this topic from this person. If we want to go even further, we can click on the photo of Thomas in this instant, and then we will get a profile for him. Now, what we can see here is a audience data. So it's looking on a profile overview for the last 30 days, where we see posting activity, average replies, average retweets, average likes, average mentions, and the comparison change from the previous 30 days. We're looking at the demographics. Now, this is his audience, because remember, we are in the audience data. So this is the people following Thomas here in this example, and where they're from, what their roles are, and what countries they're from. As we scroll down, we also see a network, network map based on his engagement. We see his audience interests. Now, these are based on keywords from their bios. So people who are following Thomas in this example, whatever keywords they put in their bio, we are then taking that and assuming that that's what they're interested in. As we scroll down, we can see his own follower growth as well as his engagement kind of trend line and how that's looking. And at the very bottom here on the audience tab, we can see that the language used most by Thomas's followers is English, the majority, but also a bit of Spanish, French, and German. And this can be really valuable to see if you're looking, maybe you do want an English-speaking person to collaborate with, for example, for an upcoming campaign, but you also want to see if they could potentially influence another market, like a Spanish-speaking market or a French or German in this case. So even though it looks like low numbers, looking at the number of followers that a person has, obviously can still be, even 2% can still be a lot of people. So it's worth taking that into account. Now, if we click content here instead, what we can see is more on his content specifically. So Thomas, as we're using as an example here. So we see that over the last 180 days, Thomas has posted mostly about cloud, data science, analytics, finance, and so on. And this will help us again understand, is this person a good fit for purpose, either for a future collaboration or maybe to have in a pool of people, a larger community to listen to larger conversations. As we scroll down, what we will see is a word cloud. Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with what a word cloud is, but for the purpose of this training, a word cloud shows the words used most by Thomas over the last 180 days. The larger the word, the more times it has been used. Here we see his top tweets. Now, I also just want to make you aware that this is actually capturing all of his tweets from all time. So you can also do a free text search here. So you would be able to search, okay, has he mentioned, like, if there's a specific name for a product, or if there is a specific whatever it might be, maybe your own brand or what it could be, and you want to see the context again, just to see if it would be a good fit or maybe not. You can toggle here, either looking at his most engaged tweets or recent, and then it's just a chronological order. At the very bottom, we see the hashtags that Thomas has most frequently used in the last 180 days. And next to it, brand mentions captured in the last 180 days. Now, I just want you to be aware that these brand mentions here is literally just that. It's just a mention. It does not mean that essentially it doesn't mean anything more than that. It's literally just a brand mention. So if you are looking at a person who you know are not an employee, or, you know, this, I think he's the CEO, but another person who might not be an employee and mentioning these types of brands, and you feel like, oh, in what context? That's when you can go and search the top tweets and see what you can find so you can get that context. Last thing we can do as well is we can add notes, and this is something you can do throughout the entire platform. So you can add notes on this person. So again, I would say that these notes are only for the people who have logged into your account. So the person you're writing a note about can't see that. But I would still, because obviously you probably have multiple people who have access to your Onalytica account, so just be mindful what you're putting in there. I would say to use this for relationship tracking. So maybe we can't work with this person on campaign X because because maybe he's worked with a competitor and that makes it not possible due to our own company policies, or have reached out to talk about future collaboration on date X, relating to campaign X. And just try, I would say, internally, especially if you're multiple people working on this, both in the Onalytica account and also outside of it, I would say try and be as clear as possible. And also it might be worth, if you're different teams working on Onalytica, to have a type of note-taking convention, just to make sure that it's super clear who the note is from, maybe what team, what campaign it's in regards to, etc., just to be as clear as possible. Just a suggestion there. Now, what we have started doing as well, what you will see on some here, is portfolio rates and media. Now, we don't have that for Thomas. It's something we have for, I think we've started collecting it for around 80,000 profiles. So we'll see if we have it with someone else, maybe. What that is essentially when no, we don't have it for him either. Okay. So when you start vetting influencers, what you want to do is maybe you want to do a quick Google search and see how's this person been mentioned. Now, what our aim is to have that on most profiles in our database so that you can very easily see that right there and then, whether or not this person has been mentioned in the media, and alongside kind of what topics, and if again it's a good fit. And then once you start going through this vetting process, you can then very quickly decide, okay, is Thomas a good fit for us? Maybe not for this specific purpose that we're looking now. And then we can just remove him. Now, don't worry, it does not remove him from the database. It does not remove him from block him from any future searches. It's only for this specific search that you're doing here and now. And then if you feel like, oh, but Satya here, he's a really good fit for what we're looking for. And Ryan, you've done all the vetting, you've gone through the profile. Gavin, great fit. David, Sundar, or Kelsey as well, great. Jason, maybe not so much. Adam, no, and so on. And then you can do that. And as we start highlighting people, we see here it appears a number here. That's how many people I've chosen now. We can save them to a list. So if we save it to a list, again, I would suggest that you decide internally on a naming convention for your lists. If you are multiple people working in Onalytica, if you have multiple teams accessing Onalytica, just to make it as clear as possible. I see some teams have, you know, just a little abbreviation of their team name. And then maybe if it's an agency, maybe they do also add in the client name specifically, or if it's if your company are doing a specific campaign, maybe for the campaign or the topic, or, you know, it can be, you can have a naming convention in many different ways, but just to make it as clear as possible. For the purpose of this, I'm just going to name it Cloud Onalytica Training, and then add my name to it so people know that I've created it. If someone comes and asks internally, here, this list is about. And then we save the new list. Now we have the option to continue searching or opening the list. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to continue searching, because there are a few other things here with filters that could be quite useful to know. Now, we can add filters how many filters we want. What I do want to say is the more filters you add, the more narrow the search is going to be. And it might then be, yeah, you're just going to have less and less results appearing. So it all depends on which way you want to go with it, to be honest. I would always suggest to start broad and then narrow it down as you go. Of course, that's up to you. One thing that I found, I work a lot with our agency clients. I know there's a few agencies on here, so hello. But I know that there's also companies on here. But one thing that is really useful, I've found, is to look at roles. So what does this mean? So we are tagging, of course, in our database, we have, like I said before, a million people or something like that, somewhere around 1 million people. Now we are tagging them, so we're segmenting them in different ways, right? One of these is by role. So if we want to perhaps look for, I don't know, journalists, journalist, we can do that and only look for people who have said that they are journalists and we've tagged with that. If we want to look at, you know, what are the journalists talking about on certain topics, we can do it either if we want to do crisis management or if we just want to see how certain topics are doing. What we can do here is we can also choose not only to include, we can also exclude on the same basis. Right? So we can either only look for, you know, if we just want to look for journalists, or if we want to exclude certain roles, because maybe some type of roles come up high, very, very high. So I would say like politicians, maybe policymakers, government employees, and so on. So we might want to exclude them. In some use cases, absolutely, you might want to include them, depending on your use case and what it is you're looking to do. But I would say probably more often than not, we work on excluding them from my experience. So then we just choose exclude, we keep role filter, and then we can start excluding politicians, we can start excluding policy professionals, and we can political and governmental professionals. And then we can just hit search again. So just note, I haven't changed anything up here, that stays the same because I didn't close out this tab. So then we can just hit search again and everything else stays the same. So within the pool of 5,000 people that we had before, it's now just going to remove anyone who's a politician, policy professional, or government professional. So yeah, and then we see it just decreased a little bit. Now we have loads of different filters here that we can look at, if this will just work with me. There we go. And if we want to do benchmark, oh, let me just remove this and add another filter. So if we want to do, let's see, where did I have that? Brand employee, for example. So this might be for a competitive analysis. It could I would say most potentially be for a competitive analysis. So some of the people in our database, we have tagged them with where they have said that they're working. So we can, of course, then look at different, if we do Apple and then search, and then we would get, again, on this would then be on the topic cloud computing. We can, of course, change that. We can remove the topic altogether if we only want to look. So people talking about cloud computing in the UK and US who are saying that they work for Apple, and we get 3 results. Now, like I said, these type of searches can be brilliant for competitive analysis if we want to look at that, and compare with maybe with our own employees, or with, if we work for an agency, if we want to look at our clients' employees and compare with other brand employees that we have in our database. So yeah, and then again, we can just play around with the filters however much we want. And like I said, we saved it in a list. So if we click list, we see that my list is on the top. And yeah, we can see here, we would see here if there's any notes. We get their bio, we see what channels we have associated with them. The authority here is just going general authority. So in terms of, yeah, whenever they post anything, if they get a lot of engagement. Audience, again, is across all channels. Average engagement is what it sounds like, average engagement whenever they post anything, what their average engagement for that is. Here we can, again, if we're building a larger list, that granted this is only 6 people, if we would have a list of hundreds of people in it, because we want to build that larger community, we can also, of course, use the filters here on the side to segment our list and look at different locations, or if we want to look at different industries or what it might be. But yeah, that is it for the Discover and looking at profiles and being able to vet the people that you find in the search results. So just a quick recap, you choose the channel, you can choose the topics from the drop-down list here. It's very helpful. You can also go into advanced search, either to change the topic that you chose from the topic library, or you can create your own Boolean query. For some agencies and companies, I know that you have people, either you guys who are using Onalytica are very, very knowledgeable and doing your own Boolean queries, or you might have people in-house that knows how to do it. So that's great. If not, you want a little refresher, click how to search, utilize the filters, and then search. And I would say to start broad, and then start to narrowing it down once you start vetting your results, because that can show you as well, like, oh, okay, maybe this was a little bit too broad, it's not a good fit. What filters can I apply? And keep searching. And then you tick the people that you want to save into a list. And then in future sessions that we're going to run, we are going to go through the next steps, which is the programs. So within the programs, you can then take the people that you have found using Discover, you push them into the program, and that's where you can then start building dashboards and getting insights. You can map the network and see kind of where they are in a conversation on a certain topic, and you can look at things like share of voice over a period of time with different topics associated. You can, competitive analysis. So yeah, there's loads of things you can do, and we're going to go through that in a future session. But yeah, I want to thank you all so much for your time today, and I know that we're letting you go early, which I hope everyone is happy about. But have a wonderful rest of your day. If you're in the US, have a wonderful evening if you're here in Europe, and hope to speak to you all very soon. And yeah, thank you so much.